watching TAG TV.
Hello viewers, I'm your host Uzma Jafri with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin today's show with Afghanistan, where President Ashraf Ghani is doing everything to make things right and restore peace and normalcy in the country. From offering a ceasefire earlier during the holy month of Ramadan, now he has released hundreds of prisoners so that insurgent Taliban who do not consider him a legitimate stakeholder can be brought to the negotiating table. A report.
As war-torn Afghanistan celebrated Eid al-Fitr, President Ashraf Ghani, in another attempt to bring peace in the country, pardoned and announced the release of over 887 inmates. The president of the country has lately maintained that he will try and test all possible avenues to restore peace in the country that has been ravaged by the protracted war.
نن د افغانستان ولس د خبرې چې 880 بندیان خلاصيږي د اختر په احترام باندې او د ولس د غوښتنې په اساس باندې.
A little over a month back, Ghani had accepted Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan's invitation to his country. He has confirmed that he will be visiting Pakistan at the end of June to improve ties between the two neighboring countries. Addressing the nation, Afghanistan has previously accused Pakistan of turning a blind eye to Afghan Taliban commanders on its soil and even of supporting the militant group it is fighting, which Islamabad denies.
تشریفاتی مجالس ندی پکار عملی مجالس پکار او ما د دوی بلنه چې اسلام آباد ته سفر وکم ومنله او ان شاء الله تعالی په شپږم د سرطان به اسلام آباد ته ځو.
Meanwhile, the optimistic and resilient Afghans celebrated the festival of Eid with joy and fervour. They gathered despite Taliban's deadly attack a week back. All of them wished for the return of the peace in the country.
والا به خاطر از این آمدیم که روز خوشی است، عید است، کل مردم میخواد که روز خوشی را ببینه و این تقاضا خواهش است کل افغانستان و مردمش است که یک صلح بیاید در افغانستان و ما که همه مردمای ما را شما میبینین کل خوش هستن، خندان هستن، در هر فامیل لبخند میزنن. دیگه اینجا آمدیم که ساعت ما تیر شود وطندارای ما خوش بسازیم.
چند وقت میشه از خونه دورم، مسافرم، بیام یک هوای تازه کنم. سکنم کابلش تا جای، شهرش تا جای، پارکاش تا پارکای داره. آرومیه چون هرچی بازم تو می هفته 2 دفعه اینتری 3 دفعه اینتری شد. همشهری‌ها خیلی زیاد به شفاخانه پرتاب بود. ما هم شفاخانه رفتم، مریضی داشتیم به جای رفتیم. خیلی می آمد میگفت اینتری نازخ میکرده. آرومی باشه بی‌تر به افغانستان.
Ghani has reached out to the Taliban on more than one occasion. He has not just promised to release Taliban insurgents from prison, but has offered space and infrastructure to them to join the mainstream politics. However, an obdurate Taliban has rejected all his proposals, citing his government was operating at the behest of Western countries, and it was Washington that was running the Kabul administration. The Taliban had earlier rejected the Ramadan ceasefire and had slammed the Loya Jirga for proposing the same. Taliban representatives have been talking with US diplomats for months about withdrawing more than 20,000 US and NATO coalition troops in exchange for guarantees that Afghanistan will not be used as a base for militant attacks.
Moving on to the illegally occupied region POK, where massive protests have erupted in the wake of the so-called Prime Minister of the region found using derogatory language against the women of the region. Although people have come to terms with the Pakistan's no-workal attitude towards the people, they have come out and open to resist the master-slave relationship Pakistan is envisioning. A report.
Massive protests have erupted against the so-called Prime Minister of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, Raja Farooq Haider, after an audio tape in which he was using derogatory language against women went viral. People carried out demonstrations, chanted slogans against him and his puppet government. Local leaders have also come up in support and solidarity. They have vehemently criticized the language used by Islamabad's stooge against women. While some say that Haider should apologize for his statements, others are demanding his immediate resignation.
Go Farooq! Go! Go Farooq! Go! Go Farooq! ये अफसोस का मुकाम है कि हमारे वज़ीर आज़म ने जो इल्फाज़ किए, बयान किए, जो बातें की, वो नहायत ही नाज़ेबा और उनके खिलाफ जो कुर्सी की तगाज़े को पूरा नहीं करती। तो हम इस बात की मज़म्मत करते हैं और ये मुतालबा करते हैं कि राजा फारूक हैदर खान को जो वज़ीर आज़म हैं वो इस बात पर माफ़ी मांगे कौम से और अपने इस मनसब से इस्तीफ़ा दें।
Women of the region who are already living a life of subjugation owing to the anti-women laws and restrictions in place have also come out in open. They shattered their bangles as a symbolic gesture to mark and register their protest against Haider and his administration, which has treated women as second-class citizens. Locals accuse that there is a prevailing system of elitism in the region and people who comprise this class are highly disrespectful to others. People say that politicians and other leaders are wallowing in luxury, owing the money and material they have accumulated by exploiting the people and resources of the region. The common man, on the other hand, is not safe.
जिस मुल्क के अंदर बड़े लोगों की ये सूरत हाल है कि ना ख्वातीन उनसे महफूज हैं, ना कोई बुजुर्ग कश्मीरी रहनुमा उनसे महफूज हैं, ना लोग महफूज हैं और उनके इर्द गिर्द जो है ये करप्ट टोला बैठा हुआ है जो पूरी कौमी दौलत को, कौमी खजाने को लूट रहा है। सर्विसेज का हाल देखें, अदारों का हाल देखें कि सब का सब जो है ये तबाह हो चुका है।
Pakistani society is fundamentally patriarchal and women have never been considered an equal gender. So it has installed people with same mindset as the head of the government in the region. Islamabad cannot see and does not want women to break the suppressive clutches and rise beyond the conservative culture.
Moving on. Australian Minister for Home Affairs Peter Dutton visited the island nation of Sri Lanka after multiple reports suggesting that Australian Navy intercepted and returned several boats carrying asylum seekers emerged. Dutton discussed Australia's tough border protection policy with the Premier and expressed his views on the measures that will be taken against those who come to Australia illegally. Minister also held bilateral talks with Sri Lankan Premier and offered him sustained support, especially in aftermath of Easter Sunday bombing. A brief report.
Canberra has a message for all, and it used the Sri Lankan territory to unveil it before the world that Australia is not going to allow even a single illegal immigrant on its soil. The message cum warning comes in the backdrop of Australia drawing flake from international community, including the United Nations, for intercepting and returning several vessels that carried asylum seekers from Sri Lankan waters. It also sought to improve its maritime relations with Sri Lanka, the place where the vessels had originated. The minister asserted that his government was operating in the line of its domestic policy of Operation Sovereign Borders, which was aimed at stopping maritime arrivals of asylum seekers to Australia.
But I want to send a very clear message today to people smugglers both in Sri Lanka and across the region. Australia has just held a recent election and the government has been re-elected. And on that basis, our policy in relation to the protection and security of our borders has not and will not change.
The minister also acknowledged the strong maritime relationship both countries had enjoyed over the time. Both Australia and Sri Lanka are members of the Commonwealth and have had a strong multi-frontal bilateral relationship for years. However, Australia believes that no country, whether friendly or not, can be used for sending people to its coasts and then in the country.
We recently worked very closely with the Vice-Admiral, with other people within the government of Sri Lanka to return very quickly 20 people who had sought to come to our country by boat. And that should serve as a very, very timely reminder to people that the journey to Australia can only be by plane, it cannot be by boat, and we have very strict policies in place that will stop people ever being able to settle in Australia.
Meanwhile, Sri Lanka welcomed a naval ship gifted to it by the United States. The new vessel will be utilised by the Sri Lankan Navy for patrol and surveillance missions in the deep seas around Sri Lanka, providing maritime security and assistance to search and rescue operations. This comes in the backdrop of China's growing influence in the Indo-Pacific. Sri Lanka's nearest neighbour, India, Australia and the United States have formed a grouping with Japan, famous in the media houses as Quad, that has been intensively working to counter China's growing influence in the region. China, which has deep pockets, has been making huge expenditures in other countries to gain a stake in their one thing or other.
Moving on. With blasphemy laws, religious extremism has turned a most virulent shade of green in Pakistan. Minorities are being murdered, arrested, jailed or executed as God vengeance under these appalling laws. The recent arrest of a Hindu doctor in the Sindh province of the country is yet another example of the injustice done to minorities under these discriminatory laws. We have Mr. Parikshit Manhas, a scholar and a professor from Jammu University, who has been closely following such developments in Pakistan. So, Mr. Manhas, minorities in Pakistan are continuously being framed for blasphemy. Whether it was Christian Asia Bibi or now Hindu Ramesh Kumar, they all seem to be the victims of a religious conspiracy. What's your take on this?
See, for past quite some time, we have seen that minorities in Pakistan are being harassed in one way or the other, whether they are Christian minorities or Hindus or Sikhs. They have been targeted time and again, and various under the garb of various laws. They are being punished, and actually they are being punished by the local people, not by the police or by the court of law. They don't let the things reach that particular point, but even before the courts decide that somebody is guilty or somebody has committed this blasphemy act or not, but people spill on the roads and they punish these people, as it happened with that Christian lady Asia Bibi, or Dr. Ramesh Kumar, a veterinary doctor, a few days back, when his bike was also burned. He was badly beaten up and his house was also burned, just under the garb of the fact that he had brought some discredit, or he had done something against the blasphemy laws. There are two takes on this. One, obviously, these blasphemy laws have been made so stringent in Pakistan that the minorities, even if they make a small mistake, they are punished, and the worst part of this is that they are punished by the local people, not by police or not by the court, even before they all decide on this thing. And second take is that why does police or court of law gives so much leverage to the common people in Pakistan so that they can go and attack the minorities, they can indulge in gruesome activities against the minorities, they can convert them at will, and they can punish them like anything. That's something which is against the human rights. Obviously, we always maintain the fact that we should not discredit any religion. We should always give respect to all religions around the world. But the point is that if somebody just comes out and spreads some rumors without a fact-finding mission, without actually finding out whether it is wrong or right, the common people punish them, that is incorrect.
A massive decline has been registered in the minority numbers in last few years. Do you think Islam and Islamic bigots have a role in it?
See, over a period of time, we have seen that minorities within the Pakistan are being shrunk, and their numbers are being reduced considerably. There was the time when India and Pakistan were divided, and in 1941 we had a census of India where we found out that 23.1% of the minorities lived in Pakistan. And then gradually, when the partition happened, this number came down to 20 or 18%. But over a period of time, now this number is dwindling, is in single figures. Now this number has reached single figures where minorities are being reduced considerably. And this obviously is being done at the behest of the government. This is all obviously being done at the behest of some political masters or some religious masters, which is not right.
Moving on. Afghanistan has had a history of a weak and ill-equipped police force, and that's one of the principal reasons behind the fragile security of the country. Amid all the attention grabbed by Afghan army, the Afghan police have gotten away with its incompetence and inefficiency. However, it has found a new leader who has promised to keep the force on toes and its enemies on run. A report.
Khoshal Sadat, the new head of Afghan police force, has one of the hardest jobs in the country, rooting out abuse and bringing new energy to a force that for years has been used as a cash machine by corrupt politicians. Khoshal, a 34-year-old police special forces officer who has spent his entire adult life fighting the Taliban, was appointed 3 months ago by President Ashraf Ghani as part of a broader anti-corruption drive.
We're just getting warmed up. You know, we're not even in our fighting in a full fighting capacity yet, as I see it. We're more equipping and enabling our special operation troops. Our Air Force is getting better. Our police is just getting their installations, their weapons, their training. They're getting good leaders. So if we're calling this a success, we're just starting. So my message to Taliban is, there's a wave coming in front of you. You either stand in front of it, you'll be blown, or you do what's expected, Afghan people expect of you, is to drop your arms and come in a peaceful and honorable way.
Poorly paid, often illiterate, undertrained and subject to unauthorized interference and controlled by local strongmen or Kabul-based politicians, Afghanistan's 180,000-strong police have long been the poor cousin to the army in Afghanistan's security structure. They include uniformed national police and other units, including irregular local police militias, and are generally used more as paramilitary troops than for law enforcement, suffering heavy casualties and regarded with suspicion by many Afghans who see them as corrupt and predatory.
We've been able to work patiently and gather all the evidence to do it the right way. And yesterday we've had a major blow to one of the pillars of the corruption inside the Ministry of Interior. A number of senior leaders, as well as juniors, have been arrested, and they're being investigated and will be prosecuted for their actions. So we no longer want to tolerate our frontline troops not being given what they deserve, the support that they deserve and they ought to have.
Since arriving, Khoshal said he had sacked 30 out of 34 provincial police chiefs for incompetence or corruption and appointed young special forces officer in his own mold. He has also moved to rotate police more often and pull them off isolated posts where they are regularly picked off by Taliban, and says casualties have been cut from 50 a day to around 90 a week. Khoshal admits he faces a mess but says he knows how to fix it.
There are various factors for the cause of casualties, and we're changing how we operate. Most of the casualties are from police being in static positions, where they become targets for the enemy. So we're slowly shifting and moving from being static to more mobile, and so it will take some time, but we're changing how we operate.
Restless and impatient, he still joins some night operations and says he hates sitting in an office, but it remains to be seen whether one man, however energetic, can succeed in a ministry described last year by Ghani as the most corrupt in the country.
Moving on. Muslims across South Asia join millions of followers of Islam across the globe to celebrate Eid ul-Fitr and bade goodbye to Ramadan, the holy month during which they fasted for 30 days from before sun-up to sundown. The Eid holiday brings families together from far and wide. Many travel great distances to be with loved ones and celebrate with special prayers, almsgiving, gifts and meals. It was all happiness and fervour from Bangladesh to Afghanistan, from Nepal to island nation Sri Lanka on the occasion. Have a look.
Thousands of devotees in the courtyards of Jama Masjid in New Delhi offered namaz, the religious prayers in Islam, to mark Eid ul-Fitr, the most important festival of Islam. Eid is a sacred celebration when the Muslims come together and hug each other with promises of charity, kindness, harmony and brotherhood. This festival is not about being happy, but to make others happy and nurture their desires. A usual Eid day begins with early morning prayers and then family visits and feasts. The festival is believed to be celebrated on the first day of Shawwal, the 10th month of Islamic lunar calendar. The celebration depends on the sighting of the moon and its celebration varies in different countries.
इसके ऊपर मैम मैसेज यही है कि सब लोग जैसे रहते हैं मोहब्बत से सबके साथ इसी तरीके से खुश होकर रहें और ये सबके लिए हिंदुस्तान ऐसा देश है सारी इसके अंदर लोग रहते हैं तो सबके साथ मिलजुल कर इसी तरह मोहब्बत से बने रहें.
Mosques and special prayer grounds were filled with people in the port city of Karachi. After offering Eid prayers, people embraced and sat together to enjoy savouries and sweet treats. Many also exchanged gifts and greeting cards while children were giving Eidi by family elders. The Pakistani government had announced a 4-day public holiday for Eid. Pakistan is a predominantly Muslim country where more than 90% of its 208 million people practice Islam.
बहुत ही मुबारक दिन है, ईद उल फितर का दिन है. हम सबको ये खुशियाँ बांट के चलनी चाहिए. अपने साथ गरीब गुरबाओं को लेकर साथ चलना चाहिए. हमें यतीम मिस्किनों को साथ लेकर चलना चाहिए और इस मुबारक दिन को हमें बहुत अच्छी तरह से सेलिब्रेट करना चाहिए.
People return to their homes to celebrate the festival. Thousands of people scramble to Dhaka's ferry terminals and train stations every year in the hopes of returning home. Around 20 million people live in Dhaka because of work and leave the capital to celebrate holidays with their families in their hometowns.
আমি গ্রামের বাড়িতে বাবা মার উদ্দেশ্যে লঞ্চে যাওয়ার উদ্দেশ্যে রওনা হয়েছি কিন্তু লঞ্চে জায়গা নাই বিধি ছাদের উপরে বাধ্য হয়ে অবস্থান করছি.
The celebration date for Eid varies from place to place and traditionally depends on the visibility of the crescent moon. Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. During Ramadan, Muslims abstain from eating and drinking during daylight hours for about 30 days. They do not take food or water from dawn to dusk and break their day-long fast with iftar. At the end of the fasting month, people celebrate with the religious holiday Eid al-Fitr.
The two key festivals in Islam are named Eid. One is Eid ul-Fitr and the other is Eid ul-Adha. While Eid ul-Fitr follows the 9th and holy month of Ramadan, Eid ul-Adha falls just after the annual pilgrimage of Hajj in Dhul Hijjah, the 12th month of the Islamic lunar calendar. With that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Goodbye and take care.